So I watched the Death Note live action movie, and it's really bad. It's really bad. One second. It's really bad. But I'm going to talk about it in this video. And I'm going to regret watching it because I watched it just to make a video about it. Now I've lost brain cells. My cat watched it with me too, so he probably lost brain cells. And he has a smaller brain than me. So that means it's more impactful to him. So buddy, what did you think of the Death Note live action anime adaptation? My thoughts exactly. Death Note is a movie that was made, I think. Death Note is a movie that was made in 2017 to sell Netflix subscriptions. Death Note is a live-action adaptation of the classic series from 2006 and 2007. It's an anime. It's very popular. In fact, it even ranks number 1 in popularity, if I'm not mistaken, on my anime list, whatever that is. And it's really popular, and it's really good too. I recently finished watching the original anime series last week, and I decided what I should do is watch the Netflix adaptation. I watched this movie with my friend and my cat, and neither of them liked it, especially the cat. As I mentioned in the intro, he's damaged now. Hey Jet, what do you think about Death Note 2017 Netflix? How do you feel about that? Are you displeased? I think you all know I'm about to lambast this movie, but is there anything that I can say that's positive about it? Well, with almost any production except for The Amazing Bulk, there's something good you can say about it. So in this one, I would say that the effects are fine, the cinematography is fine, the editing is bad, but the cinematography is fine, and the acting's pretty bad. But not all of them. Ryuk's actor is pretty good. I forgot his name, but he's somewhat famous. I can't really think of anything else, to be honest. Even though I only saw the anime last week, I can tell you that I'm a huge fan of the anime, and I love it. It's masterfully written, it's incredibly well told, and really compelling. I love the Death Note anime. In this movie, it takes like the concepts of the Death Note anime, and then it throws them out into a failed abortion of a movie, and it completely destroys the characters from the original. And that's one of the reasons I really hate it, because of what it does with the characters from the original. But we're going to talk about that. Just know that in this video, I'm going to be comparing the Death Note movie to the anime. And I don't really care what you say. If you don't like that, just leave a comment and say that it's different from the anime. Shut up, you stupid weeb. And then put a dislike on the video and click off. I don't care about you. The original Death Note series had a very simple plot. It was all based around the framing device of the Death Note, and everything else was about the characters and what they would do in such a situation, how the government would react, and it wasn't really about the plot. The plot was very simple. There were some twists and turns, and the plot was definitely interesting, but it wasn't the main focus. The characters were the main focus, and their interactions and their chase to hunt each other down, like the cat and mouse game between Light and L. In many ways, the plot of this movie is similar to the original, but far less coherent. And things that happen in this movie make little to no sense. So if you don't know, the plot of Death Note, the anime and the movie, the basic premise is that Light Yagami, or I think in the English dub it's Turner, but dubs are for scrubs. I don't watch dubs. Anyway, so Light Yagami or Turner, I'm just going to call him Yagami because I watch subs. I'm superior. Anyway, Light Yagami finds the notebook, which is the Death Note, and the Death Note, when you write a name in the Death Note, it'll kill the person that you write the name of, right? and it has rules. So it has a set of simple rules. There's like 3 or 4, I think. There could be more. I could be wrong. But I think there's 3 or 4 rules to the Death Note on how it must be used and how it works and all that stuff. And that's the premise of the show, is that he finds the Death Note and starts using it, and eventually, well, he uses it to punish criminals because he wants justice in the world. And eventually, he starts to become more of a serial killer than a judge. But he doesn't see himself as that, of course. He thinks he's doing the right thing, always. Even though he starts to become more evil and more corrupt as he uses the Death Note more. Eventually, Light gains the name Kira, which is sort of an alias, and he goes by it, and people worship Kira because they think Kira is delivering justice, which he is at the start, but as the series progresses, he becomes more and more evil and corrupt, and he cares less about punishing criminals and keeping justice, or delivering justice, and he cares more about his own godhood, because he wants to become a god of justice or whatever. And he starts to become very egotistical, and he just wants to use his power to control the world around him. And throughout the series, there is a group of investigators that is trying to track him down. In the anime, the investigator changes. There's like a main investigator. In the first half of the anime, it's L, and in the second half, it's N. And in this movie, it's just L, but that makes sense because it has to be a lot shorter than a whole series of 37 episodes of an anime. However, the plot of Death Note, the original, was extremely compelling, and it almost always made a lot of sense, and you understood how things happened and why they happened. In this movie, that's not always the case. So Light finds the Death Note, and he starts writing names in it. He writes the names of criminals, and they said he kills about 400 people. When the investigation is starting to pick up, they're realizing that someone is causing these deaths. Now, it doesn't make a lot of sense in this movie. In the anime, he killed everyone with heart attacks because he wanted them to know that it was him who was doing it, because he wanted to become a god. He wanted to become a god of justice. And in this movie, he just kills people with random things. So how are the investigators supposed to tie a bunch of random deaths together? Like, oh, one person has a heart attack and 20 people have a heart attack. And it's 40 people have an accidental death, 10 people have a car crash. How do you tie those events together? In the anime, it was clear how they knew Kira was causing it, or Light was causing it. It was because he was always killing them with a heart attack. In this movie, he kills with a variety of methods. So how are the investigators supposed to know that one person is behind it? Doesn't make any sense. In the movie, Light shows the Death Note to some random girl at his high school. I guess because he wants to get laid. I can't see any other reason, but he shows it to her, and she becomes his accomplice. Don't worry, we're going to get into how stupid Light is and how dumb his character is later in this review. But that is so illogical, and it makes no sense. Why would he do that? Anyway, so to prove the Death Note, he goes on the internet and looks up live crime scene, and then he kills the person in the crime scene. But I want to show you what happens when you look up live crime scene. Here's what happens. Here's what happens when you look up live crime scene on the internet. I'm going to tell you right now, there's no live crime scene. By the way, just ignore my tabs, please. Anyway, yeah, look. Where's the live crime scene? Videos. There's no freaking live crime scene. How does that work? It's not going to happen. None of these videos are live. This isn't a live crime scene. You can't do that. He proves to this girl that the Death Note's real. And she starts working with him, and then they kiss, and she becomes his girlfriend. And so they're starting to work together, and they're killing people with the Death Note, and she is a complete psychopath, and he doesn't see any warning signs, and he just stays with her, and they keep killing people. The investigation is ramping up, and then we introduce L. We're not going to get into characters. I can't get into characters yet. I'm going to have a different segment about that. Anyway, so L, I'm trying to talk about this without mentioning how stupid L is in this movie. So in the first scene where L talks to the police, it's been established that an investigation has been going on for a while, and they haven't been able to determine where Kira is, or where he's based out of, what his name is, any details like that. It's hard to talk about this. L tells them, The Kira's in Seattle.
Kira's in Seattle.
And they're like, "What? How do you know Kira's in Seattle?" And he's like, "Well, the evidence is that this crime was only broadcast in Seattle, and he killed the criminal who was perpetrating it." But it was already established. There's a team of investigators that is investigating Kira, and somehow they don't investigate where the crimes are broadcast. What? Why would they not do that? Especially since it's one of the first. It's one of the first criminals who died from Kira. Also, how did they know it was Kira? Because he got hit by a truck. Anyway, ignoring that, that's how they determine he's in Seattle. But it's been established that the investigators are already looking for him. Are the investigators completely retarded? How do they not know that to look where the stuff was broadcast? Now, you might say, well, the original anime had a very similar plotline. The crime was only broadcast in the Kanto region of Japan, and that's how they knew where Kira was based out of. However, in the anime, L was immediately working with the investigation. He was the first one they talked to, and he was always involved. And his deduction about it being in the Kanto region, that Kira was in the Kanto region, was immediate. And he knew he was there because he's smart. And there was no investigation before then, so it made sense that he would immediately determine that because he was always a part of the team in the original anime. In the movie, he just joins the police like halfway through, and then he's like, "Oh, he's in Seattle, woohoo!" So there's a Shinigami that is god of death, and he's there, and he like tells Light stuff, but he's not important at all, even though he's the only good actor in the movie. So at some point, you realize that his girlfriend's a complete psychopath, and she wants to kill his dad because his dad dares Kira to kill him on live TV, and so his girlfriend's like, "Let's just kill Dad," and he's like, "No, that's my dad." And then she tries to take the notebook and kill his dad. And then you realize she's a psychopath. But because they're all stupid and Light's stupid, he showed her the notebook, so now he has to stay with her because she has important information and she could leak it to the police. At least that's my deduction. I don't know if that was actually in the movie, but that's what I would think. In the next scene, Light is at a coffee shop. He's at a coffee shop, and he's doing homework, or I think he's actually researching Shinigami. I don't know. But he's at the coffee shop, and he's sitting at the table, and then L just jumps in the chair across from him. He's like, "Hey, what's up, dude?" And he literally says, "I know you're Kira."
I really think that I'm Kira.
No, I know it.
Seriously, he says that. It's like you're sharing details of your investigation with Light. Why would you do that? If you think he's Kira, if you know he's Kira, why would you do that? In the anime, a similar thing happened. L told, in the anime, you didn't really know L's identity, but L talked to Light and told him that he was L. And he said that, but it was all part of a plan. He had a 5% suspicion. He thought he was 5% sure that Light was Kira. But he also knew Light was extremely intelligent and could be helpful on their investigation if he wasn't Kira. So L told Light a lot of details about the investigation, but he was only 5% sure. L just confronts Light, and he knows he's Kira. He confronts Light in this coffee shop, and he shows him his full face. "Hey, look, here's my face. Look me up on the internet, or you can find my name easy now. Here's my face." Though that doesn't really come into play because the script is illogical. But anyway, they talk for a while, and they get in heated discussion, and Light's getting really mad, and there's a lot of yelling, and they're out of character. Anyway, that scene eventually comes to an end, thank God, and he goes home, and his girlfriend's like, "I love you," and then the movie continues, and they're talking, and then they're like, "Let's control Watari to give us the name of L so we can kill him," right? But they write in the notebook his name is Watari, but they write that that's his whole name, like his full name is Watari. Are you serious? Like his whole name is actually Watari. and he's just giving out business cards, and he's got his name on everything, and that's his full name is Watari. He's not using an alias or anything. How stupid are these people? So Watari tells him some information about L, and then Light forces him to give him the name, so he makes him go to this random place. For some reason, that's where they keep L's name. Couldn't Watari just ask L's name or something? Aren't they like close to each other? I don't know. So anyway, he controls Watari to go to this random building in a forest, and then he like goes down the stairs into these archives, and then he tries to find L's name, but then he dies right before he can tell Light. How convenient.
Fuck it, forget it. Just forget it.
To be honest, at this point, I really wasn't paying attention anymore. But there's a car chase. There's a car chase, and it's like an action movie, and they have this cringy music playing in the background, and I'm just dying laughing because it's so bad, and it's just awful. At some parts, this movie tries to be like an action movie for some reason, and I don't get it. The original had almost no action, and when there was action, it was very important to the story. But in this movie, they just have like random car chase, and then he goes to a dock, and then he falls off this Ferris wheel, and it's like there's sparks everywhere, and the Ferris wheel breaks. But it really strays away from the roots of the original in that latter half, because the original barely had any action. The original was about character tension and drama and that sort of thing, and it worked excellent. The final confrontation didn't even have an action scene. He just got shot. He was in a building, and they were all in a building, and it was mostly talking and threatening each other and that sort of thing, and it was all about the characters. He got shot at the end, but it wasn't really an action moment. The original script was so good that it was able to make a tennis match incredibly entertaining and compelling and draw you in. That's never happened before. Eventually, after the car chase, L has Light cornered. He's pointing a gun at him, so he runs this alley and he shoots the gun in the air first. So if you know this person is Kira, you know they're dangerous, and you don't understand how they kill, you don't know they have a notebook or anything like that, as far as I'm aware, wouldn't you just shoot them? Shoot, like, maybe not to kill, but if you have a gun, don't just shoot in the air like you're trying to threaten him. Given this character, because this character of L is not the original. He chases people around, he's insane, and he crashes through things in his car, and he can look cool, but he doesn't take the opportunity to shoot Kira while he's there. That makes no sense. So then he points his gun at Kira, since he believes Light's Kira. He's like, I'm going to arrest you. And he just sits there, and they talk for a little bit, and it gives some random guy time to come out, and he's like, what's going on here? And then L's like, this is Kira, and I'm going to arrest him. And then he gets hit in the head by this random guy that came into this alley. And the guy's like, I love Kira. And then Light just walks away without even saying thank you. And he just runs off. And then he goes to this Ferris wheel. And we're going to get to that. After running away from the cops, Light ends up at this Ferris wheel. His girlfriend's there. I can't remember why she's there. I don't remember a lot of things from this movie. It's not very memorable, except for the parts that were really bad, which I can talk about. But he goes on this dock. And by the way, this is a terrible decision. Why would you go out on this dock thing with a Ferris wheel on it if the police are chasing you? Because they're going to corner you. You've put yourself in a terrible situation. You're cornered on this dock. You don't have anywhere to go. You can jump in the water, I guess, but they do something even stupider. They're stuck on this dock. The police are coming, and the police corner them at the dock, and they're like, we're done. Why did you go there? So they decide, let's go up on the Ferris wheel. Yeah, instead of just jumping into the water. Oh, God, my voice is getting hoarse from getting mad. Anyway, instead of jumping into the water or doing something logical, they're just going to go up on this Ferris wheel, and they shoot the thing so they can't bring the Ferris wheel down, the button. They go up on the Ferris wheel, and they sit up there, and they're like, yay, we're safe from the cops now. No, you're not, you idiots. They have ladders, I'm sure. They can get you. That was a terrible idea. So anyway, it's basically a set piece to have a quote-unquote emotional moment. It's here that Mia, I think his girlfriend's name, not Misa, like the original character from the anime, which is completely different, by the way. I'll get to that. So Mia takes the Death Note, or she tries to take the Death Note, because she tells Light that she has his name written in the Death Note, and if he doesn't give her the Death Note, then she won't burn his page, which will set him free from the Death Note, because apparently that's a thing you can do. They established in this movie that you can burn a page of the Death Note to prevent one name from dying on the page. But you write tons of names on the page. It's a big page. What happens if you burn a page with a lot of names on it? How do you choose which of those names you can save? That makes no sense. But anyway, she says she wrote his name on the page, and if he doesn't give it to her, the Death Note, then she's gonna not burn, or if he gives it to her, she'll burn his page and she'll keep the note. She wants the Death Note since she's a psychopath. And he's then they're like talking, and I don't know. Eventually, for some reason, they decide. She decides I don't want the Death Note. And he's like, all right, but it's too late because he already gave her the Death Note or something. I'm trying hard to remember, but it's really tough. So he gave her the Death Note, and then she dies because for some reason this movie has another incredibly illogical thing that wasn't set up in the movie or in the anime. He writes a conditional statement in the Death Note. You can't do that. It was never established in the book, in the movie or the anime. But he writes a statement that says if Mia takes the Death Note, because I guess he predicted she'd want it. I mean, I guess that's reasonable because she is crazy. But he writes that if she takes the Death Note, then she'll die in the Death Note. So he writes that, and it's like he orchestrated the whole situation. I'll talk about that. But, okay. Then she takes the Death Note, and I can't remember why, but the Ferris wheel like bucks, and then everyone falls off. So she falls off, and she has the Death Note in her hand, and he falls into the water, and then like float off or something. I don't know. However, after this, it's revealed that Light actually planned this entire situation. He planned for her to take the Death Note, for them to fall in the water. How did he plan that? And then he even planned, when she was falling, for the page with his name to come out of the Death Note. He wrote this in the Death Note, that the page with his name would come out of the Death Note and would land in a conveniently flaming barrel so that it would burn and he would die. Wow. And he also wrote it for this situation. He wrote, like he knew the situation was going to happen somehow, and he wrote it so that he would be resuscitated by some random dude, and then some other dude that's a pedophile, and he liked kids, and that guy would take the Death Note and give it to him or something. I don't know. He wrote that, but that's so stupid. Why would he do that? It makes no sense. If he knew the situation was going to happen, why would he plan it? Why wouldn't he just prevent it? In the anime, sometimes Light would engineer circumstances to advance his goals and to benefit him. But in this movie, he plans this whole situation, but it has no benefit to him. So why wouldn't he just prevent the situation if he knew it was going to happen? And he wrote plans for it, because it offers him no benefit. It just ends him up in the hospital where he's easy to be caught by the cops. And his dad's there, and he told his dad this for some reason, and I couldn't figure it out. And then the movie ends. Thank God. There's an awful after credits blooper reel, and then it's done. By far, the most offensive part of this movie to me as a Death Note fan is that it's a complete bastardization of the characters that I know and love from the anime. It's terrible what they did to these characters. I know you're going to say, it doesn't have to be like the anime. I don't care if it doesn't have to be like the anime. Just just to make the characters good, but these characters aren't good, and they aren't compelling, and they don't make good decisions. So I'm going to compare it to the anime, and you're to shut up and deal with it. Light Yagami. Let's talk about this dude. Or the bootleg Light Yagami. All the characters in this movie are bootleg versions of the real character. So Light in this movie is completely stupid. He is so dumb. He doesn't make logical decisions. He's a complete idiot. He's a moron. The thing that makes it even worse is that in the anime, Light was an incredibly interesting and compelling character because he was very smart and he was incredibly cunning. He almost always had the upper hand on his enemies. He was always calm and collected. He made smart decisions. He thought things through. In this movie, Light is so awful. He just yells constantly when he gets mad. He says things that make no sense. He sputters out terrible lines of dialogue that someone wrote on a script. There's so many fucking rules. And he has to do them. His acting is questionable. It's in some points. It's not always terrible, but at some points it's pretty bad. He's just nothing like the true Light Yagami, and he's almost never shown to be an intelligent person. It's just some stupid kid that found the Death Note, and he wants to kill criminals, but it's never explained why. I guess because he doesn't like bullies at his school. In the anime, Light wanted to kill criminals because he saw himself as superior. He thought he was worthy to bring justice upon people because he was so much more intelligent than everyone else. In this movie, I guess he just wants to kill criminals because bullies. Yay. In this movie, he does stupid things with this stupid girlfriend, and he's like, hey, here's the Death Note. This can kill people. Here, I'm going to prove it to you. The Death Note kills people. Will you have sex with me now? And it's so cringy. I can't take that part of his character in this movie. And one of the most important aspects of his character that was completely lost in this movie was the fact that he gets more and more evil and more insane and more of a serial killer the more he uses the Death Note to kill criminals. And eventually he's not just killing criminals. That was one of the most interesting parts of the anime, and that's when you could realize that Light was not a good person anymore. He might have started out with good intentions, but now he wasn't a good person anymore. He's just deciding to kill people that are coming after him. He's killing innocent people and things like that. In this movie, Light never becomes a bad person. He never goes through that character arc. He was the same at the beginning as he was at the end in regard to killing criminals and not killing anyone else. Even when his girlfriend made these FBI or special ops agents, I don't know, she made them walk off this building and kill themselves because they were investigating Kira. And in this movie, he actually gets really mad over that because he doesn't think it's all right. And he never changes his opinion in this movie, which was one of the best aspects of his character, is that he became more evil. In this movie, he is always a quote-unquote good person. Obviously, it's not good to just kill tons of people, but he never makes that step into being completely evil as he became in the anime. And he became hostile to anyone that would dare stop him. He would kill anyone who wants to stop him. In this movie, he never becomes like that. He's a good person at the beginning, and he's a good person at the end. In fact, I think L is more insane in this movie than Light is. L is completely crazy in this movie. He smashes cars into things. He gets in fights with the police chief. He yells at people. He can't control himself. And it's even worse. I don't know. It's almost as bad as what they did with Light in this movie. Similar to Light in the anime, L was a very calm and collected character. He always had his head calm. He was always prepared for a situation, or almost always. And he was also very intelligent. In the anime, it was set up that Light and L were both very similar characters. And they both had childish tendencies, but they all were also highly intelligent, and they toyed with each other. And that was also a great aspect of the anime that was lost in this movie. Instead of intelligent, thought-provoking games that they play with each other to try to get the other to tell him his name, Light tries to get L's name in the anime, and L tries to figure out if Light is Kira, which he greatly suspects. The more and more the anime continues, he suspects it more and more. But in this movie, all they do is they just yell at each other, and there's none of that. It's incredibly disappointing. The characters in this movie are painfully subpar, especially when compared with the original anime. Just a short thing I want to add on here for the comedies, for the XD, is that for some reason there's a lot of rules in this book. This Death Note. There's a lot of rules.
There's so many fucking rules.
The original Death Note, I think I mentioned before, it only had like 4 or 5 rules. But in this movie, I think there's hundreds of rules. I know there's at least a Rule 95, because I remember them mentioning that. But there's so many rules, and it fills up a large portion of Death Note, actually, with rules. In the anime, there were actually a lot more rules than we were led to believe. But most of them were so insignificant that they weren't mentioned in the anime. Instead, they were on these little slideshows right before and after commercial breaks, and that was it. Those rules were so unimportant that they were never mentioned in the anime at all. They were only in the commercial cards. And in this movie, there's so many rules. There's 95 rules at least that we know of, that I can remember. There was rule number 95. And there's so many rules. It kind of ruins the charm of the Death Note. In the original, there were a very simple set of rules, and it was compelling to watch the characters play around these very simple set of rules to manipulate them and use the Death Note to their advantage. In this movie, there's a ton of rules, 95 rules.
There's so many fucking rules.
The conclusion is that this movie sucks and it's terrible, and it was made to sell Netflix subscriptions to people that like anime. Bye. So what did you think of Death Note 2017 Netflix?
I thought it was the stupidest thing ever. They got all the characters wrong, and I hated it, and it was stupid, and it didn't make any sense, and it made me get depression because I was so disappointed in what the world has come to. That media thinks it's okay to turn the good show into the stupid movie that's supposed to appeal to stupid people, and it's stupid and nobody likes it, and I don't like it. I think it was bad, and it was a really poor adaptation, and the characters weren't like true to the originals, and I don't care to be the new take on it, because you're making it with the idea that it's gonna appeal to people that watch the original. So why did they even make stupid decision to even do this movie? I hated it. It was bad, and I did not enjoy it.